us and lead us and guide us. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen. Indivisible, liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Reverend Smart. Thank you. I ask the clerk if there are any revisions to tonight's agenda.
There are no revisions, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Tonight we have two distinct parts to our meeting. The planning and zoning portion will be handled first, followed by the regular commission meeting. I'd ask the clerk to read the statement required by state law governing the planning and zoning portion of our meeting, followed by the items on the planning and zoning consent agenda.
We would like to welcome all present to this meeting of the Unified Government Commission. Members of the commission are Mayor David Alvey, Commissioner Melissa Bynum, at-large District 1, Commissioner Tom Burrows, at-large District 2, Commissioner Gail Townsend, District 1, Commissioner Brian McKiernan, District 2, Commissioner Ann Mugia, District 3, Commissioner Harold Johnson Jr., District 4, Commissioner Mike Kane, District 5, Commissioner Angela Markley, District 6, Commissioner Jim Walters, District 7, and Commissioner Jane Philbrick, District 8. As each petition is called this evening, all persons for or against will be given the opportunity to express their views. If this is the first time that a particular petition has been before this commission, the commission has three options. Number one, it can approve the recommendation of the Planning Commission with 6 votes. Number two, it can override the Planning Commission's recommendation, but it would take 8 votes to override. And number three, it can return the matter to the Planning Commission for further consideration with a statement specifying the reasons for the referral back to the Planning Commission. The consent agenda is the first part of the Planning and Zoning agenda. Items on the consent agenda have received a unanimous vote of recommendation by the Planning Commission. Unless there is a request to set aside an item from the consent agenda by the applicant, a member of the public, the Unified Government Commission, or staff, then the Planning Commission's recommendation on all items on the consent agenda will be adopted by the Unified Government Commission at one time. I will read the list of agenda items on the consent agenda, and when I have completed the list, the mayor will ask if there are any requests to set aside items from the consent agenda. This is your time to stand up and request that an item be set aside if you do not agree with the Planning Commission's recommendation. If an item is set aside, that matter will be discussed and voted upon separately. All items not set aside will be approved with the Planning Commission's recommendation. We appreciate the attendance of those people here this evening, and we recognize the importance of each petition. We would remind you that there are a number of items on the agenda, and we would appreciate your efforts to make your remarks as concise as possible. We ask that anyone with a cell phone to please turn them off or switch to non-audio so you will not disturb the meeting. Once the petitioner makes their presentation, anyone for or against will be allowed the maximum 3 minutes to state your views. As you come to the microphone, please state your name and city for the record. The mayor and commission are required to disclose contacts with proponents or opponents on any items on the planning and zoning agenda. I will ask if any members of the commission wish to disclose any contact with proponents or opponents on any item on the agenda.
Commissioner Bynum?
Thank you. I've had contact with opponents of SP 2018-91. I've had contact with proponents of PR 2018-17.
Commissioner Kane.
An opponent SP 218-91.
Commissioner Philbrick.
Yes, I've had contact with proponents and opponents to SP 2018-87, opponents to SP 2018-91, and proponents to PR 2018-27.
Thank you.
I will now read the items on the consent agenda. Change of zone applications, item number 1, 3165 Alton Holloway. Change of zone R1 Single Family District to AG Agricultural District for an agricultural purposes at 3441 North 51st Street. Recommended for approval. Item 2, number 3171 Glenn Eastwood with Becky Everett with Glenn Pre-Owned Appliances. Change of zone from R1B Single Family District to C3 Commercial District for storage for used appliances at 817 Central Avenue. Recommended for approval to CP3 Planned Commercial District. Special use permit applications, item 1, SP 2018-76. Ray Henson with Car Clinic Auto Sales. Renewal of a special use permit for an auto dealership at 1270 Southwest Boulevard. Recommended for approval for 2 years. Item 2, SP 2018-87, Clifford Dale. Renewal of a special use permit for earth and fill at 5700, 5737, 5831, 5831R, 5832, 5841, and 5900 State Avenue, 1007 North 57th Street, and 1204 and 1215 North 59th Street, recommended for approval for 6 months. Item 3, SP 2018-88, Joe Hydrick with Cactus Bed Properties. Special use permit for a short-term rental Airbnb at 4313 Rainbow Boulevard, recommended for approval for 1 year. Item 4, SP 2018-89, Raymond Luke Kuch with Luke Kuch Corporation. Renewal of a special use permit for a parking lot at 1327 Minnesota Avenue, recommended for approval for 2 years. Item 5, SP 2018-90, Mark Russell with Board of Public Utilities. Special use permit for Rosedale Substation at 3777 Lloyd Street, recommended for approval. Item 6, SP 2018-91, Mark Murdock. Special use permit for an auto sales detailing light maintenance and repair at 7521 Nebraska Avenue, recommended for approval for 2 years. Item 7, SP 2018-92, Jamie and Jason Applegate. Special use permit for a kennel for 4 dogs at 10606 Augusta Drive, recommended for approval for 2 years. Vacation application, 1 item, RW 2018-6, Mark Russell with Board of Public Utilities. Vacation of right-of-way at 3777 Lloyd Street, recommended for approval. Plan review miscellaneous applications, item 1, PR 2018-27, Bruce Adab Yazbad with Vecino Group. Preliminary plan review for a multifamily development with a daycare amenity component at 7401 Armstrong Avenue, recommended for approval. Item 2, PR 2018-32, Doug Bach with the Unified Government of Wyandotte County, Kansas City, Kansas. Preliminary plan review for a new fire station at 2913 Hutton Road, recommended for approval. Item 3, MP 2018-4, Glenn Eastwood with Becky Everett with Glenn Pre-Owned Appliances. Master plan amendment from urban residential to community commercial at 817 Central Avenue, recommended for approval. Item 4, amendment to the citywide master plan to include the Northeast Area Master Plan. Consideration of amendment, recommended for approval. Ordinances. Number 1 is a resolution adopting the Northeast Master Plan, recommended for approval. Item 2 is an ordinance rezoning property AG Agricultural District to R1 Single Family District at 9837 Meeks Road, recommended for approval. And item 3 is a resolution adopting MP 2018-4, Master Plan Amendment from Urban Density Residential to Community Commercial, recommended for approval. Those are all items on the consent agenda.
Thank you. Does any member of the commission or anyone in attendance tonight wish to set aside any item on the planning and zoning consent agenda? If an item is not set aside, all items on the planning and zoning consent agenda will be voted on by one vote to follow the recommendation of the Planning Commission. Yes, ma'am. Please come forward. State your name and address and the item that you'd like. Yes, please.
My name is Catherine Grayharsh. I live at 3800 Lloyd Street.
I'm sorry, could you speak up?
I live at 3800 Lloyd Street in Kansas City, Kansas. My name is Catherine Harsh. And I'm
in here.
Wanting to set aside SP-2018-90.
SP 2018-90.
Dash 90, the special permit for the Rosedale substation.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
staff would like to set aside items D4 and E1 related to the Northeast Area Master Plan to add a minor text amendment to the plan related to the exodusters and the history of that particular area of the community.
Thank you. Commissioner Kane, did you have?
Yes, I'd like to remove SP 2018-91.
Thank you. Any others? I'd entertain a motion for.
Move to approve all remaining items as submitted.
Second. We have a motion and a second. Roll call, please.
Roll call: Walters.
Aye.
Philbrook.
Aye.
Bynum.
Aye.
Burrows.
Aye.
Townsend.
Aye.
McKiernan.
Aye.
Mugia.
Aye.
Johnson.
Aye.
Kane.
Aye.
Markley. The vote is 10-0. That motion carries.
Thank you. That takes us to set aside item SP-2018-90. Is that correct? I'd ask staff to make some opening remarks.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Representatives of the Board of Public Utilities are here this evening. They've applied to build a new Rosedale substation. It's in a area just north of Lloyd Street. Will replace the existing Fisher Park substation. And I believe Pat Morrill is here, and he could address any specific comments related to the proposal.
Yes, Mr. Morrill?
My name is Pat Morrill. I'm Director of Electrical Engineering for the Kansas City Board of Public Utilities. I live at 10923 Winchester Drive in KCK. BPU is in the process of constructing the new Rosedale substation to replace the antiquated 69 kV Fisher substation that's located in Fisher Park. The new substation is located roughly will be about 600 feet to 800 feet north of the Fisher substation. It's on property that right now is a treed area. The substation itself will be constructed. We have to tear down the hill approximately 35 feet down to be able to have enough room to build the new substation. It's going to be 161 kV with 2 transmission lines that will enter the substation, one off of South Minnie Street to the west. The other will come down South Cherokee from the north. Really, South Minnie is on the west side, but it will go north of there and then off to the west to Barber Substation. This substation is needed to improve reliability to the Rosedale area. There right now is 2 major single points of failure on the Fisher substation. The new substation and new transmission lines will mitigate those issues and provide better service to the whole community, as well as provide growth for new businesses and the KU hospital.
Thank you. Have a seat. Is there anyone who would like to speak in favor of this petition? Seeing that, I'd ask if anyone would like to speak in opposition. Please come forward, state your name and address. And you have 3 minutes.
Okay. My name is Catherine Harsh, and I live at 3800 Lloyd Street, which, if you can see, is the angled rectangle right below the green dot. Yeah, that's my house. And the reason I bought it was because of the green space behind it. And this is no longer a treed area. They've clear-cut the entire center of that green space that you see there, and the trail surrounds that space. And this is supposed to be green space enjoyed by Rosedale residents. And in actuality, it's going to be an industrial eyesore and a health hazard to the neighborhood, as well as light pollution and noise pollution if they have a similar Google fan station that they have at Fisher Substation. And I'm opposed to it for those reasons.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who would like to speak in opposition? Would the petitioner like to make any closing comments? No. All right. Do any members of the commission have any questions or comments? Seeing none, I'd entertain a motion.
Move to approve as submitted.
We have a motion to approve.
Second.
And a second. Roll call, please.
Roll call, Walters.
Aye.
Philbrook.
Aye.
Bynum.
Aye.
Burrows.
Aye.
Townsend.
Aye.
McKiernan.
Aye.
Mugia. Johnson.
Aye.
Kane. Markley. The vote is 10-0. That motion carries.
Thank you very much. Thank you, ma'am. That takes us to SP 2018-91. I'd ask staff to make some opening remarks.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Each of you had a letter received from an opponent to this case that couldn't be here this evening. He asked for this to be set aside, and he asked that the commission reverse the Planning Commission's recommendation of approval and deny the case.
Okay. Is there anyone who would like to come forward and speak in? No, the petitioner, please come forward. Yeah, thank you.
Hi, my name is Larry Nickerson, and I'm representing Sullivan Palmer Architects, who and Mr. Kuda, who have designed this plan and came up with this for recommendation for approval. I understand that the gentleman here that's the proponent is not here to state his case as to reason why this can't move forward. We believe that the site improvement that we're doing to the building and all the accommodations we've made that the Planning Commission has set forth and given us we've done so in a reasonable manner and time frame. And we just ask that the Commission would go ahead and approve this.
Thank you. Is there anyone here who would like to speak in favor? Seeing none, is there anyone here who would like to speak in opposition?
I'd like to talk.
And any comments or questions from the commission?
Well, I've been here a long time. It's the first time I've ever got an email with the concern. So I immediately drove by this morning, 7 o'clock. I mean, that place is terrible. The person that owns the lot across the street, it's an empty lot. And it's currently an eyesore. So I reached out to the individual at 7:15, sent him an email and wanting to know more detailed. I didn't get any information back, but any change would be better than what it looks like right now. And I'm in an awkward position because I ran on pro-growth. Now, that's bad. And it's an eyesore. It's been an eyesore for an extended period of time. And if you don't improve it, I'm going to be climbing down your throat like you can't believe. So this is a two-way street because I'm supporting you in what you're doing, but if you don't do what you're going to say, you're not going to like the end of it. So I make a motion to accept the planning and zoning's decision.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Commissioner Philbrook?
Yes, so Commissioner, I live a lot closer to that, and I get to drive by that all the time. And thank you so very much for improving that piece of property. It has been an absolute atrocious area for quite a while. And yeah, I can't wait either, but what I will tell you, the same thing as him. I pass by there a lot more often than him, and I'll be calling him, and we'll be calling you. So I'm looking forward to seeing how wonderful that's going to be. And so I appreciate that. Thank you.
All right, seeing there are no more questions or comments, roll call, please.
Roll call, Walters.
Aye.
Philbrook.
Aye.
Bynum.
Aye.
Burrows.
Aye.
Townsend.
Aye.
McKiernan.
Aye.
Mugia.
Aye.
Johnson.
Aye.
Kane. Markley. Vote is 10-0. That motion carries.
Thank you. That takes us to the set aside from Mr. Richardson.
Thank you. So the Northeast Area Master Plan is before you. We missed one request for an amendment that goes to the history of the area. So you have a a sheet before you that explains the amendment, but we would like to add a paragraph to page 41 that explains the need and the importance of honoring the exodusters in an area near Washington Boulevard as we move forward with development in the area. I know there are several people in the audience that worked on the master plan. They might want to stand or raise their hands to acknowledge their work, and that we thank them very much for supporting us through this process. And as I believe it was said by Commissioner Bynum earlier, this is just the beginning. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Wonderful. Would anyone like to speak in favor of this petition? Please come forward, state your name.
Good evening. Rachel Jefferson. Live at 609 Split Log Avenue, Kansas City, Kansas. I wasn't actually planning to speak today, but taking this opportunity of this being pulled off to say that this has been, in the years since I've worked in Kansas City, Kansas, and Wyandotte County, going back to probably about 2009, has been one of the most fruitful and beneficial processes that I have gone through in collaboration with the unified government. So I just wanted to put that out there, that I hope that this type of partnership that we've been able to form throughout this planning process can continue forward. I'm really grateful to the Department of Urban Planning for all their assistance and their progressiveness and forethought for the future of the Northeast area throughout this process, being willing to be creative and innovative and experimental. I want to thank Miros for bringing their expertise to this process. And I also want to thank all the commissioners that have been involved in this process, making sure that the MBR for this area has been involved in it, and making sure that the community voice is respected as co-creators in this process. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else like to speak in favor? Anyone in opposition? Seeing none, we ask for a motion.
Mayor,
You want to speak now or after?
I'll go
Yes, you can.
right now. Thank you.
Yep.
Again, I said this upstairs in a special session that I wanted to wait until until we actually get ready to approve this. And actually, I was going to wait till we approved it to say something. But I do want to say thank you to Mayor, you and this entire commission for your willingness to support this, specifically Commissioners Townsend, Commissioner Bynum. We have worked, I can't call us a dynamic duo, but whatever trio would be, we worked in that capacity together and really bonded over this time. And so I want to thank this commission, Mayor, and also Mayor Holland for his backing of this. Ms. Jefferson, I call her Mrs. Jefferson, and Rachel have been, without a doubt, just very, very helpful and thoughtful as they help to lead us through this process on the ground. And the community really showed up big time for this. I publicly want to state for the record also big thanks to Mr. Chester Owens. Mr. Owens took time to talk to me and to really give me a great deal of history, a great deal of context, and a great challenge. Made it very clear that we've got a long way to go and that we're just now getting to the starting line. And so I want to appreciate you all for that. There's a lot of good energy now that we've had in a long time, but it's time for us to deliver. With that, I'd like to make a motion that we approve this.
We have a motion.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. And Commissioner Townsend?
Thank you. Since it has been pulled off, just to echo what Commissioner Johnson says, but not to be repetitive, I would encourage anyone who was not present today at the 5 p.m. special session who really wants to get a little bit more into what this process has been about in the plan itself, to go back and look at that. There's so many ways to pull it up. No need to go into all of it, but if you want to get a little bit more detail about the plan itself, I would encourage you to go back to that special session and look it up. Thank you.
Wonderful. We have a motion and a second. Roll call, please.
Roll call: Walters.
Aye.
Philbrook.
Aye.
Bynum.
Aye.
Burrows.
Aye.
Townsend.
Aye.
McKiernan.
Aye.
Mugia.
Aye.
Johnson.
Aye.
Kane. Markley. Vote is 10-0. That motion carries.
Thank you very much. That concludes the planning and zoning portion of tonight's meeting. We'll now move to the regular portion of our agenda. Does any member of the commission or anyone in attendance tonight wish to set aside any item on the regular consent agenda? If an item is not set aside, all items on the consent agenda will be voted on by one vote.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Roll call, please.
Roll call, Walters. Philbrook.
Aye.
Bynum.
Aye.
Burrows.
Aye.
Townsend.
Aye.
McKiernan.
Aye.
Mugia.
Aye.
Johnson.
Aye.
Kane. Markley. Vote is 10-0. That motion carries.
Thank you. Our last order of business is a public hearing on the amended Northwest Speedway Star Bond project. Before we take public comments, I'd call upon staff to make some opening remarks.
Thank you, Mayor. Tonight we are seeking to hold a public hearing regarding the proposed American Royal project. This item has been advanced to the Commission for a public hearing this week, and it's a little unusual. We're going to ask you to continue this over until next week. As we were going into the final stages of putting the plan together, we received some comments from Acting Secretary of Commerce regarding our wording that was in the sharing of local sales tax. When we originally put this in place, we had put in a provision that held back some of the local share. He indicated that he would not approve it in that fashion outside of all the area that's in the plaza at the Speedway area. That's all being held back into the local district. But in the other areas, that was not acceptable to him. This is something we had done in coordination with the landowner there, but recognizing it has to be adjusted to be in conformance with how the state would like us to move forward. We've modified that portion of the plan and also made some adjustments to the dates as we go forward toward a bond issue on this property. Right now, I'd like to recognize Catherine Carter, our Interim Economic Development Director, who will provide a presentation prior to the public hearing. Catherine?
Good evening. Catherine Carter, Interim Director of Economic Development. I'm just going to provide a very brief update. I know you all are very familiar with this project, as this has been many years in the process. So as Mr. Bach mentioned, tonight we're just conducting a public hearing. There will be further action down the road, but this actually next week. But this will just be looking at public hearing for the amendment of the project plan. The original project plan was approved by this commission in June of 2017. So again, as kind of a little overview, currently this project is envisioned at $160 million. Of course, there's the likelihood, even possibility and likelihood, that the project will be a greater investment than that when all is said and done. But for purposes of this bond issuance, we're looking at a $160 million project. Like all STAR bond projects, there is a 50-50 match. So that means that $80 million would be the public bonds and $80 million would be private funds. The American Royal kicked off with the minimum goal of $80 million, but are hoping to raise far more than that to ensure that their vision is realized. So they are in the finalization process of their design and programming. This is the Star Bond District. This was approved by Commission in 2017. As Mr. Bach mentioned, the portion there up in the top right corner, the northeast area, is where the plaza at the Speedway is. Their only contribution coming from there to pay off the Star bonds is a state contribution of their sales tax, while the remainder of the rest of that area will be both state and local sales tax. I'm now going to recognize Corb Maxwell, who's representing the American Royal from Polsinelli, to speak a bit about the site plan.
Thank you, Catherine, and thank you, Mayor Alvey and members of the Commission. Corb Maxwell with the Polsinelli firm. Here today, I also have with me John Mitchell. John is a CEO in town of Treat America, but is here representing the American Royal as the chairman of the building committee. As many on this commission know, we've been in front of you many, many times to discuss the project and the plan, and we will continue to be in front of this commission many, many more times, because this is just one step in the process of this public hearing. We'll need to be back with you again for development agreements. We'll need to be back with you again for zoning, land use, and planning processes. We'll need to be back with you again for issuance of the bonds. So as all know who've been through the STAR bond process, this is a long process that we have to go through. But the key fundamentals of our site plan are still intact that we've always had here. A 5,000-seat arena and a warm-up arena. That's 5,000-seat arena will be modern, will be state-of-the-art, and will be absolutely tailor-made for our agricultural events. But beyond that, we'll also have mixed-use components to it and be able to be used for other events that this community could host and would like to host in that sort of modern setup of a 5,000-seat arena. In addition, we'll have at least 400,000 square feet of exhibition space, of barn space and exhibition space that can hold up to 2,000 animals in them at a time, but could also be used as appropriate exhibition space for this community. And most important, and sort of the legacy of Neil Patterson, is to make sure that we have an educational event center. We want to make sure that this is, as Cliff Illig always says, a flag post for agriculture in Kansas, but that it is also a way to train folks in Wyandotte County and all throughout the Kansas City region and all throughout the nation. What does agriculture mean to our community, and what better place to do that than in the state of Kansas? And so that was very quick, Mayor, but we're here. We're still very supportive of this, and the leaders of the American Royal look forward to moving this forward with all due speed.
Thank you.
Just a couple words about the financing, as that is kind of the crux of the STAR bond plan. So basically how this will work in terms of the project plan is that there will be a first drawdown that is allowed so that the American Royal can get started on their project. That will be $10 million of bond issuance and also a $10 million match. That $20 million in total will allow for the land acquisition as well as infrastructure for the entire site. So that is very restricted use for that first piece of that first drawdown. The remainder of the STAR bonds will be that $70 million will remain in escrow until the American Royal has raised the remaining $70 million in private funding. And just a couple notes on timing and kind of next steps. As was mentioned, this will move into a public hearing that will be continued until next week, when commission action will be taken on the amended project plan. So that would be next week, December 6th. Then we're looking at, if all goes according to plan next week, then the bond issuance will be in late December, with kind of spring construction starting on the infrastructure, and then late 2019, I'm going back in time, 2019 for the actual construction of the American Royal project to commence. And that is all we have.
And Mayor, with that, we'll recommend that you hold a public hearing regarding the project.
Thank you. I now open the public hearing. Is there anyone present who would like to speak in favor of this item? Yes, please come forward, state your name. You have 3 minutes. Name and address, please.
Good evening, Mayor Alvey, Commissioners, Unified Government staff. My name is Marcia Harrington. I work for the Wyandotte Economic Development Council at 727 Minnesota Avenue, Kansas City, Kansas. I also am a resident of Wyandotte County and live in Bonner Springs. I'm here tonight on behalf of the Wyandotte EDC in support of the amended Northwest Speedway STAR Bond project plan. We believe that the cornerstone of this entire development is the iconic American Royal, and provides a unique opportunity in several ways, including the education center that bridges the gap between the consumer and the agricultural industry that will allow for experiences unlike any in the world. a livestock and equestrian exposition facility that will attract significant numbers of new tourists, and those tourism dollars which will be spent in our county around the Kansas City metro area. We are also seeing interest from agri-related businesses and organizations that have a desire to locate out by the American Royal, and that is a component of our marketing and outreach efforts going forward.
You have 1 minute, ma'am.
And it positions us as a linchpin within the animal health corridor stretching between Manhattan and Columbia, Missouri, making it a strong connection to our human and pet food manufacturing sector supported by the Wyandotte EDC's attraction and retention efforts. We look forward to working with American Royal and appreciate your support of the amended plan. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else would like to speak in favor? Hearing none, anyone would like to speak in opposition? Seeing none, are there any questions or comments from Commission? Seeing none, I will note that this action will be considered at the December 6th full Commission meeting. We are continuing the public hearing until December 6th. Thank you. That concludes our meeting for the evening. Thank you all for your attendance, and go Sporting KC.
The additional 15 million that we have to